shares some of their concern. Brett, thank you very, very much. Brett Baer in Washington. No doubt he's going to have a lot on this in a couple of hours. Well, dumping nearly 2,000 pages on senators and congressmen and demanding they read it and vote on it within about 3 days of getting it. Does it sound familiar? It does to Republican Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn. Not at all a fan of this type of thing. Yet here we go again. Senator, what are you going to do?
Well, it shouldn't be called an omnibus. It should be called an omniterrible. I don't know who wasn't listening in Washington at the last election. This is exactly the kind of mischief that the American people are sick of.
Well, did anyone know this was coming, Senator? We're going through some of the earmarks, extenders, special breaks, whatever folks call them, that are tucked inside this 2,000-page monster. But then they're front-loading this. That is, the Democrats, who right now are in the majority in this lame duck session, they can say vote on this first before anything else, can't they?
Yeah, they can. And if they get the votes to proceed, they'll get it with some Republican votes probably. But the point is it denies the very real problems that are in front of our nation. And there's all sorts of, there's about $12 billion in gimmicks to make this thing look better than what it is. It's loaded with thousands of earmarks that haven't seen the light of day. We haven't even seen the report languages where, and that's the part that's important, where we really find out what's in the bill. They won't even answer us and tell us when we'll get to see the report language.
All right, so when you get
exactly
onto the
type of
bill,
stuff that America's sick of.
Gotcha, sir. But just to be clear to a lot of people who are new to this type of process, this is even new to this process, because this kind of thing, as Brett pointed out, is rarely done in a lame duck session. But now with days to spare, and not many days to spare, you've got all these other issues, and then this one was sort of dropped on you like an exploding furnace in a house in the middle of a Christmas celebration. What do you do?
Well, there's a lot of things we can do. I don't necessarily want to talk about them now because I don't necessarily want the majority leader to know what I'm going to do. But there are ways to slow this puppy down and make it very painful. If they're going to steal a whole bunch more money and they're going to confiscate transparency from the American people, then we ought to do everything we can to stop this puppy. And
but if you don't,
it's just disheartening.
And this thing isn't approved, whether you find it offensive or not, they claim you risk shutting the government down, do you?
Well, the government gets shut down on Saturday if we fund it by Sunday, if we do something. The real question is not whether the government shuts down, is whether or not the career politicians in Washington still have earmuffs on and can't hear the American people screaming about what they'd like to see. And it does one other thing that's very important. We have a debt limit increase that's coming up in April or May. And if you pass an omnibus, you take away any opportunity for Republicans to cut the size of the government over the next year. So we won't have an opportunity to do rescissions in the House. We won't have an opportunity to really address the real problem, which is impending bankruptcy of the United States, all because people have to have their earmarks.
But if I understand this correctly, you had the debt limit raised, which is the equivalent of someone having their Visa or MasterCard credit line increase. So you have some built-in, albeit falsely built-in, wiggle room for the government to keep operating with an extended credit line. But if I understand you correctly, Senator, this monstrosity that we've got here is the means by which you continue that government. In other words, the money's there. Now you fill in the pages, right?
Yeah, well, the money would continue to September 30th. But the point I was making, Neil, is if there's a continuing CR to February of next year with a Republican-controlled House, right? And then what we can do is we can use the refining and cutting of the government to get the votes to raise the debt limit. But we should be able to cut hundreds of billions of dollars out of this budget, and we're not going to have that opportunity because they're going to force this omnibus through.
Or what if they don't? What if they realize there are ways that they have pushed something on you where there's not enough time to read it, even if you're a speed reader, and comprehend it, even if you're an Einstein? So they say, all right, well, forget this monstrosity. Let's work on the things we agreed with, like extending the Bush tax cuts, like dealing with some of these other issues that have come up, the AMT, even the New START agreement, then get to this. Can they do that?
Yeah, you can do a clean CR, which says you don't have any shenanigans in it. You can pass a clean CR out of the Senate today. if Harry Reid would put that on the floor. The House would accept that.
The clean
and the
CR
government
would not have any of these little extra goodies in it.
None of the malarkey that makes America so sick.
All right.
And then in February, we'd relook at it and then fund the government for the rest of it. Remember, you know, a big shift happened in the House. Mainly what Americans understood is jobs and spending. And to not pay attention to that is, you know, to me it's almost, well, I won't say the word I'm thinking, but it certainly doesn't give any confidence to the American people that Washington is listening any louder than what they were before.
And now it seems that the shift, Senator, has hit the fan. Thank you very much, sir. Very good having you.
Good being with you.
Now to the other fight, this one over healthcare, the healthcare law. The Justice Department saying today it's going to